Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's January 31st. Another month in the books. So believe it or not, we're already 1 month into the new year. I just don't know where the time's going, but it seems to be going by quickly. A nice downtrend today, but the problem you had today was you have the FOMC announcement that came out at 1 o'clock, and the market really sold off after that. So whatever was said, they obviously didn't like it. Um, Although this is probably just a continuation of the sell-off. Here's your first leg down from the morning, and then when we started lower, that's going to be your minimum target right in there, and you can see we went a little bit lower than that, and um, so we usually met that target to the downside, but that would have been my minimum target in there on the way down, based on what you got up top here on the first move down. um, Early on, you could really trade this both ways. It had an upward bias until right about here, and then it was kind of um, neutral to actually reversing. We actually had a break of this. You got a two-tiered channel working up. You got a close outside, move to a new high, and then it sold off from there out. So that trend worked out. There's some short-term trends in here, and most all of them played out pretty well, as you would expect, including this one here. You got a break, couple legs down, and it seems to be reversing now, and it's a big overshoot of what looks like the lower side of the channel. Um, I could be off a little bit there, but we did bounce off that line multiple times, so it's got some bearing. It could mean that there's two tiers, but it's so late in the day. This is going to be your channel, and there's probably a midline in here. You can see that fits perfectly. I usually make my midline lighter just so it breaks it up there, but you can see that fits perfectly dead center. Notice how we turned down off of it multiple times. It's acting as support and resistance. Got some more resistance here. Now it's acting as support, trying to get higher. But anyway, let's talk about the trades. I'm going to move through them pretty quickly today. I have a afternoon um, personal issue I got to take care of, appointment, so I'm going to have to move through this one pretty quickly and wrap it up for the day. When I came in, we were working up here, and we found this high. It's always dangerous to go short off a high like this, but look what happened every time we got away from the EMA that far. A big move back down, and look how it's pushing through both sides. So even though this is an uptrend, it still has a little bit of a neutral bias, or that you could almost want to trade both ways. So that big, huge bearish bar that went higher and turned and came down, being that far away from the EMA, is probably going to continue back to at least the EMA and probably the trend line. And the fact that we came up short, we may overshoot it that much. And look what happened, where we came up about from here to here, and we overshot it about the same. And that's generally what the market moves. Anyone that tells you that market geometry is not real hasn't watched prices very long, because the market moves in equal distances. It's not 100%, but it's so often that you can't dismiss it, and that's the way I'll leave it. But anyway, you might want to enter here. It's aggressive, but that's where sometimes you catch these very highs. If you'd got aggressive right here, look, you catch this thing and ride it all the way down. And that's why I like these. And this was a quick, easy move. Then we get a close outside. We tried to go lower and bounce, but we are looking for a retest of the high because this has been trending up. So that big bullish bar, it's probably too big to use a regular buy stop, so you probably have to let it break higher and drop a limit order a few ticks back, and you would have gotten filled several ticks back into that bar, and then it takes off again, makes a new high. So again, you could almost argue to enter here on a little failed break higher, but I'll mark that one. I'm going to make it green like the other one though, but they're aggressive, so just keep that in mind. You didn't get a lower high on this one. This one you got a lower high pretty quickly, right inside that trend line, so you got a chance to ride this one on down. Um, there's a failed second entry long right here, but by that time you're going sideways and you got a lot of neutral bars in there. And so I don't like, you just got to sit tight on that one. It just looks like sideways stuff, to be honest. And you can see it does bounce and then turn down. Um, and that's actually a two-legged move up. And so it would have been nice to get a good setup bar here. But again, you would be right back into all those lows right across there. I don't have a line on there, but there's quite a few. It's quite a bit of support right across there. So you can see that. Let me make this a little bigger. But you can see that support right across there. So you got to go short right into that. It is somewhat of a breakout pullback short, but it's not a very good one. So it comes down, it bounces down here, and this turns out to look like kind of the low of what's going to be a range. And we get a little break lower, then a higher low. So I like going long right there. Just looking for it to try to move back to the other side. Of course, it comes up short and turns back down. We do get a close outside and a new high. So this one's tempting here, but at this point, I would expect that prices are probably going to try to push higher. So I'd be too worried about a trap right there. So I would definitely want to see this get back through the EMA and give you a lower high, which comes right here. And that signal bar is not perfect. It's real close to, I wanted to make this one green because it's not a great signal bar, but you still got everything you need there to think this thing's probably going to go lower. And at that point, I would have measured this leg down. And if we keep going lower, then you're going to look for a measured move. And that puts you right down in here. We actually went a good bit lower than that. But this turns out to be a nice trade. You're just looking to get out by here, but notice how it pushes on through and comes back. It gives you now you got two legs down, so that's a failed second entry long and a breakout pullback short. And it's not a great signal bar, but since it's a failed second entry long, we're treating it like that. Then I think you're okay to go short there. You're probably going to retest this low, and if you catch this one, you can ride this one down quite a bit. But notice what happens here. You get a little, it's really dangerous entering on these little swings like this, but it's continuing to make lower lows and lower highs. And notice you got a double top here. So you get pulled back, you move down first entry, pull back second entry, and you get a little failed second entry long there and a big bearish bar. If you could get into that one, I like riding it down. This thing skipped over, so you'd probably have to put a limit order and hope it comes back to get you. And you don't want to chase it, so you have to put your limit order where your original sell stop would have gone. So I don't know if you'd have got filled on that one, but your chart may look slightly different. But if you could have gotten filled there, I like that one just simply because it looks like a failed second entry long, and it's multiple times to try to go lower that failed. And people are trying to pick, every time this thing bounces, there's somebody trying to pick a bottom, and you're going to get some people trapped. And notice what happens as soon as they run them out, it finally finds a bottom and then reverses exactly like you would expect it to. But at this point, I don't think you want to be looking for any longs. We're continually moving down, and if we head back up, you're just going to be heading back to this side of the trend line. And notice, and that gets you into the 12 o'clock hour. It was tempting to go long right here. When we failed that many times, you're probably going to push on through. And notice we came up short right here, although we've already touched down here. So you can't really judge this for coming up this short that you may go over that much, but it's still something to think about. But this gets us into the 12 o'clock hour. But notice you got a low, first entry, second entry, so that would have been a nice place to enter, but I just think it's too dangerous right into that 12 o'clock hour. And you would have scalped out and it wouldn't have mattered. But you never know when you're going to get stuck in something that just keeps going side. That's starting to look like what you see about an hour before FOMC days, and a lot of times you'll get stuck in that, and that's what you don't want to happen, because you get stuck in it and you can't risk a big bounce or move out of it when the news comes out. So you just about have to almost take a loss there to make sure you don't take a big hit. And so that's why I don't like that one. It's just too sideways. The trend line's still holding. So if anything, you want to wait on a short setup, but you got this trend line working up and you don't really, it hasn't really played out. So I think you're better off just to skip anything there. And that takes us into 1 o'clock, and notice what happens right at 1 o'clock when the news comes out. Um, it's pretty volatile on that quick move down, and then it just gets a little correction, then another little move down, and by this time it's not looking too bad. And that you get a third touch right off that trend line, failed second entry long. You're probably going to test the low on this channel here. So I like going short there. And I think it's obvious by this time that the market's not too crazy. And the price action still, that's the thing about it. Even during news, the price action still plays out. The problem is sometimes it has an exaggerated move and it moves too quick and you don't have time to think about things. And so that's why you don't want to be in it when it happens. But generally the price action still plays out. And you can see here it did. We got the break, finally close outside of the channel working, the trend line working up, 2 legs up, and it sells off. That's the first break of the main trend line working down. And so you get your break and then it moves lower, finds a low, and now look, it's rallying. And I mean, that's perfect price action. So so I like this one. This is really your signal bar, and that's too bullish, but since it's a failed second entry long, it really doesn't matter. You still get the same low even with that big bearish one. I like going short right below that. And that would have caught you a runner. And then notice that we're going sideways again, and you don't really get a good setup there. But you get this little breakout. There's a little 2-legged correction. And so I like going short right there. You really want to go, your entry would be below this bar because this one's too bullish. But notice that you got that eye, pull back first entry, pull back second entry, and then there's a second entry long right there because there's a move up, pull back, second entry long, and then so I like going short right there. And at that point, I'd measure this move down, and you're probably not going to get that because you can see with the channel, it's way past the channel. We came close. We did overshoot the channel. And an overshoot just means that, notice how price is bouncing on this every time. You're expecting it to bounce here, and it doesn't, so that's an overshoot, and you overshot it again right here. So somebody asked me the other day what I meant by an overshoot. Well, that's what an overshoot is. Notice when you have a confirmed channel like this where you know prices are turning down off the trend line and then turning up off the trend channel line, you expect it to do that every time, and if it doesn't and pushes on by, it's an overshoot. Or that, you know, sometimes it could mean there's another equal distance line and this is a midline, but I don't think that's the case today. You can see we reversed. So this was the last trade of the day. This took us into the 2 o'clock hour, and you really didn't get another setup there. There's a possible long right here because you got to close outside and a couple of legs down, and this is a higher low, and you're still way away from the EMA. So I'm not opposed to entering right there. And this is real close to being blue, but it's so late in the day that I'm going to leave it green because it's just, once you start to get into that 2 o'clock hour, you start to see more traps and fake outs and things. You know, that may just be something personal with me, but it just appears to me, just from my experience, because I don't have any data to back it up, but it just always seems to me that the price action plays out more clearly in the mornings than it does late in the afternoon. Seems like late in the afternoons it just gets a little bit wackier for some reason, and you get more failures and traps and things like that that don't play out like you would expect them to, like they do in the morning. So so I'm a little bit more leery about being aggressive in the afternoon than I would be in the morning. So anyway, that's what I saw today, and you can see that we traded up just a little bit, and then right at the open we started selling off, and we really sold off all the way into the 2 o'clock hour. Now we're taking it all back, and that's another thing I didn't talk about. Generally, when you have a big news move, a lot of times within the hour, but definitely usually by the time that day's over, the prices will work their way back and it'll kind of reset and start over again from where it was. And you can see it's looking like before we close today, they're going to take all that news move back. I mean, look at that. It's almost straight up. And so this is a good example that doesn't, you may get some nice price action in the afternoons. It doesn't mean that you won't. And notice there's a perfect reversal here. Let me make this a little bigger. We'll just talk about it. You made this double bottom. You got a higher low with a first entry short, and then you pushed up with your second leg, and your second entry short is through the EMA. It bounces. That's a perfect reversal pattern. And look, if you'd have caught that, you'd still be going with it. I'm going to say that we're either overshot it now or there's going to be two channels here, because that looks like the channel right there to me, maybe even a little tighter like so. Yep, that looks like it to me. And so this may be two-tiered. And what you'll do is just go ahead and draw your second line and move it an equal distance over and leave it there and look for prices to possibly turn down at that point. So at this point, it just looks like an overshoot of a real tight channel, but it could be two tiers. So, but yeah, that's a perfect reversal. And if you catch that, and notice too, there's a little breakout pullback over the trend line. That's the way, support and resistance areas always, if they start out at resistance, notice we come back and they're acting as support a little bit here before it pushes on through. When we push back through here, it comes back and it acts as support before it goes on. And so all a trend line is, or a trend channel line, is a slanted support and resistance. It's no different than this sideways support, resistance and support. It's just on an angle. And that's why they're so important. And I mean, everything we do is all about support and resistance. So always keep that in mind. And you can see this thing is still climbing. There's a secondary trend line here that gets real steep from this point on. And you can see it working right up through there like so. Look at it go, it's still going. And now look, we're finding resistance. It doesn't mean it won't push through there, but look where we found resistance. Right at that equal distance. We pushed through it a little bit, but it closed back inside it. Look how far we are away from the EMA. This is almost a sure thing at some point to come back. With only about 20 minutes left in the market, I don't know, but guaranteed this thing's going to sell off here in a minute. Or going to have a correction anyway. I wouldn't say sell off, but it's going to have a correction here shortly. But we've almost taken back that entire move from the news. I mean, basically, we may have, there's the high. So we still got a point or so to go between, there's the high we've made so far, and that's where really it started right. Well, actually, it started right in here. So yeah, we've pretty much taken, we're right back to where we started with the news, right on this bar. So we've pretty much, that's a good example of what I was telling you about prices usually taking back those news moves before the day is over. Again, it's not 100%, but I'd say 80% of the time you can count on that happening. And you see how strongly it had to move to do that. Had to move pretty strongly. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up so I can get out of here. I got an appointment I got to catch this afternoon, but we'll be back again to do it tomorrow and wrap up our week. But I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.